The stars burned bright in the endless night of space. In the middle of this dark ocean, giant warships clashed like angry beasts. The sky was full of fire, smoke, and broken metal. Among these ships was a young alien warrior girl named Serenia. She was strong, fearless, and trained since childhood to protect her people. Serenia's armor glowed with strange markings, the sign of her warrior clan. Her eyes shone with determination as she led her squad into battle. For years she believed in her people, in their mission, and in the comrades who fought by her side. But tonight, everything was about to change. Her ship shook as enemy fire slammed into it. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the floor trembled. Serenia gripped her sword tightly. Her blade was no ordinary weapon. It was alive with energy, humming with a deadly power. With it, she had cut down hundreds of foes. With it, she thought she could never lose. Her commander's voice echoed through the comms. "Serenia, push forward. The enemies are weak here. Victory is near." She obeyed without hesitation. She trusted her commander. She trusted her squad. She fought through enemy lines, cutting down one fighter after another, her blade flashing like lightning in the storm of war. Her heart burned with pride. But then, it happened. Her ship's shield collapsed. Enemy blasts tore through the hull. Her squad shouted in panic. Serenia called for backup, but the comms went silent. The other ships, the ones she trusted, turned away. They pulled back, leaving her and her squad alone. Her eyes widened in shock. "Commander, where are you? We need support." No answer, only static. Through the smoke, she saw it clearly, her allies retreating, leaving her ship surrounded. The betrayal cut deeper than any blade. She realized with horror that this was no accident. They wanted her gone. They had sent her into the front lines on lie to abandon her. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. But there was no time for answers. The enemy struck again. Explosions ripped through the ship. Her squad screamed as fire consumed the corridors. One by one, her comrades fell, until only Serenia remained. Blood trickled down her arm, smoke filled her lungs, but she refused to give up. She crawled to the escape pod, her body weak, her armor broken. With the last of her strength, she launched herself into the void of space. The pod spun out of control, burning through the atmosphere of a nearby planet. Inside, Serenia clutched her sword, her only friend left. Her mind was a storm of anger, pain, and confusion. "They betrayed me, my own people, my own commander. Why?" The pod crashed into the planet's surface with a deafening roar. The ground shook, dust and fire rising high into the night sky. Serenia's body was thrown against the walls, and darkness swallowed her. Hours passed. The battlefield above moved away. Ships vanished into the stars. Silence fell over the planet, broken only by the wind. Serenia lay still among the wreckage. Her once bright armor was cracked and burned. Her skin was bruised, her breath shallow. For the first time in her life, she was powerless, alone. But the universe was not finished with her. From the shadows of the forest, footsteps echoed, slow, heavy, careful. Someone was approaching the crash site. The sound grew closer, crunching against the dirt and broken metal. Serenia's eyes flickered open for just a moment. Through her blurred vision, she saw a shape, a figure standing at the edge of the flames. Not an alien like her, not one of her people. It was a human. The man stepped closer, his face half lit by the fire. His eyes scanned the wreck, then stopped on her broken form. For a moment, he said nothing. He just stood there, watching the fallen warrior girl, as if unsure whether she was friend or foe. Serenia tried to raise her sword, but her arm would not move. Her strength was gone. Her vision darkened again. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was the human kneeling beside her, his hand reaching out. The screen fades to black. The night on the strange planet was silent, except for the crackle of fire from the wreckage. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of burned metal. In the middle of this destruction, the alien warrior girl, Serenia, lay broken, her armor shattered, her breath weak. She was alive, but only barely. Through the glowing firelight, a figure stepped out of the darkness. He was tall but lean, wearing a simple suit made for traveling across harsh worlds. His face carried no mask of power, no alien markings. He was human. His name was Kyle. Kyle was not a soldier, not a great warrior. He was a wanderer, a man who traveled between forgotten planets, trading, repairing machines, and surviving on his own. He had seen many ruins, many battles left behind by larger powers, but this was different. He had never seen someone like her. Kyle stopped a few steps away, his eyes narrowing as he studied the wounded girl. Her sword still glowed faintly beside her hand, a weapon unlike anything he had ever seen. Her armor was cracked, yet it was clear she was no ordinary fighter. For a moment he considered walking away. She was dangerous, she was alien, she was not his problem. But then, her eyes flickered open, golden, sharp, filled with pain yet also pride. Even half-conscious, she looked at him with the stare of a warrior who refused to beg. She was ready to die before showing weakness. Something stirred in Kyle's chest. He should have left her, yet he couldn't. With a sigh, he knelt down and gently lifted her broken body. She was heavier than she looked, her armor weighing him down. Still, he carried her across the burning wreckage, step by step, until they reached the forest nearby. Serenya's voice was faint, barely a whisper. Why, help me? Kale didn't answer at first. He laid her against the roots of an old tree, pulled off his pack, and began checking her wounds. They were deep. She had lost too much blood. She needed care, and fast. Finally, he spoke. Because you're alive, and no one deserves to be left for dead. She blinked, confused. Among her people, mercy was weakness. Among her people, no one saved strangers. Yet this human, someone she had been taught to see as small and fragile, had chosen to carry her from the fire instead of leaving her behind. Her heart, trained only for war, did not understand it. Kyle worked quickly. He cleaned her wounds with rough bandages, poured water from his flask into her lips, and even gave her a small piece of ration bread. He had little, but he shared it anyway. Serenya wanted to speak, to warn him that helping her would bring danger. Her enemies would not stop. The betrayers would come again, but her strength faded, and all she could do was watch this human work. For hours he sat beside her, silent, waiting through the night. Every sound of the forest made his hand reach for the old blaster at his side. He knew this planet wasn't safe, but he stayed. As the first light of dawn touched the trees, Serenya woke again. Her strength had not returned, but the pain had lessened. She looked at him, this stranger who had kept her alive through the night. You risked yourself, for me, she whispered. Kale shrugged. I've risked worse for less. There was no pride in his voice, no boast, only truth. For the first time in her life, Serenya felt something she had never known. Trust in someone not of her kind. But peace never lasts. The sound of engines echoed through the sky. Shadows passed over the trees as a massive ship descended toward the crash site. Black armored soldiers swept the ground below, searching through the wreckage. Serenya's eyes weighed. Dean Ed. She knew those markings. Her betrayers had returned. They were hunting her. Kale pulled her up carefully, his face grim. They're looking for you, aren't they? She nodded weakly. Yes, they won't stop until I'm dead. Kale's jaw tightened. He had saved her once, but could he save her again, against soldiers, against machines far stronger than himself? Serenya gripped his hand. For the first time, the proud warrior asked for help, not with words, but with the look in her eyes. Kale took a deep breath, then gave a short nod. Then we'll have to hide, and fight when the time comes. Together, they slipped into the deeper forest, the sounds of enemy patrols closing in behind them. The human carried her once more, her broken body leaning against his shoulder, her glowing sword strapped to his back. Serenya closed her eyes. She did not know why she trusted him, but something inside her whispered that this human was different, that maybe, just maybe, he was her only hope. The screen fades to black. The forest was dark and alive with strange sounds. Tall trees stretched like towers, their branches hiding the morning sun. The ground was damp, covered with roots and moss. Every step felt heavy, every sound too loud. Kale moved quickly, carrying Serenya as best as he could. She was still weak, though her golden eyes glowed faintly with fire. Her alien sword was strapped across his back, humming softly with energy, its weight reminding him of the danger they faced. Behind them, the enemy spread through the forest. Black armored soldiers, trackers, and machines scanned the ground. Their voices echoed in the distance. They're close, Serenya whispered, her voice still weak. Kale nodded. He already knew. He could feel the danger pressing in, like a noose tightening around them. They stopped near a stream, Kale lowering her against a fallen tree. He gave her water from his flask. She drank slowly, her pride wounded more than her body. A warrior of her kind should never rely on someone else, especially not on a human. You don't have to stay, she said, her voice sharp. They want me, not you. If you leave now, you'll live. Kyle looked at her, surprised. Leave you here? After I just dragged you out of fire and patched your wounds? Her eyes narrowed. It would be wiser. I am not your fight. But Kyle only gave a small grin. Maybe not, but it looks like I don't always do the wise thing. For a moment, Serenia stared at him in silence. She didn't understand him. Among her people, humans were spoken of as fragile, weak, soft-hearted. Yet here was one who had risked his life twice for someone he didn't even know. Before she could reply, the sound of metal footsteps broke through the forest. Patrols. Kyle's grin faded. He crouched low, pulling his blaster from his belt. Serenia reached for her sword, but her arm trembled. She was not ready to fight. The soldiers drew closer, their helmets scanning, their weapons raised. Kale pressed a finger to his lips, signaling her to stay quiet. They waited, still as stone. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The first soldier passed only a few steps away. His boots crunched against the leaves, his visor glowing red. Kale's hand tightened on his blaster, but he did not fire. Not yet. Then a second soldier turned, his scanner lighting up on the ground near them. The device beeped. He raised his weapon, moving toward the fallen tree where they hid. Serenia's breath quickened. Her pride told her to fight, but her body refused. For the first time, she felt helpless. Kale acted. He leapt from cover, grabbing a rock and hurling it across the stream. The sound crashed like thunder. The soldiers spun, weapons raised, rushing toward the noise. Kale pulled Serenia up quickly. Move! With her weight leaning on him, they stumbled deeper into the forest. The shouts of soldiers echoed behind them, the sound of machines chasing like hungry wolves. Not as turned into an endless chase. Roots tore at Kyle's boots, branches whipped his face, but he did not stop. Serenia's pride burned as she realized this human was carrying her, protecting her, while she could do nothing. Finally, they reached a cave hidden under a hill of stone. Kale pushed her inside, then dropped down beside her, breathing hard. They'll search everywhere, Serenia whispered. Then we stay quiet, Kale said. He leaned against the wall, listening to the distant noise of patrols. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his eyes were sharp. Serenia looked at him. His face was worn, his clothes dirty, but his spirit was unbroken. Something inside her shifted. He was not strong like her kind. He had no armor, no advanced weapons. Yet he was brave enough to stand against enemies far stronger than him. Her heart, trained only for war, felt something unfamiliar, respect, and perhaps something more. The noise outside grew louder. Shadows moved across the entrance of the cave. Soldiers were near. Kale reached for his blaster, but Serenia grabbed his wrist. No, if you fight them all, we will die. Then what do you suggest? He whispered. Her eyes gleamed. Let me show you why they fear me. She pushed herself up, leaning on the cave wall. Her sword hummed as she lifted it. Energy sparked through the cave, lighting the stone with a pale glow. Kale's eyes widened. He had carried that weapon, but he had never seen it alive. Serenia stood tall, though her body shook. Stay behind me, human. You saved me. Now I fight for both of us. The shadows outside stopped. The soldiers had sensed something. The cave trembled as heavy boots moved closer. Serenia raised her sword, her eyes burning with fire once more. Kale tightened his grip on his blaster, ready to stand beside her. The silence broke as the first soldier stepped into the cave. The screen fades to black. The cave was filled with silence, broken only by the soft hum of Serenia's glowing sword. Its light painted the stone walls in pale blue, cast in long shadows. Kale stood close behind her, his blaster ready, his heartbeat racing in his chest. Outside, armored soldiers moved like hunters circling prey. Their scanners beeped, their boots pounded the ground. The enemy was closing in. Serenia's body ached, every muscle weak from her wounds, yet her pride would not allow her to fall again. She gripped her sword with both hands, forcing her trembling arms to steady. Kale whispered, "You're still hurt. You can't fight them all." Her golden eyes glared at him. "I am a warrior. Fighting is all I know." Kale shook his head. "Then you'll die here, and so will I." The words cut her more than any blade. She had lived her whole life believing warriors died with honor, but now she faced a different truth. If she rushed into battle, she would not only lose her own life, she would doom the human who had risked everything for her. For the first time, The alien warrior girl hesitated. The first soldier stepped inside the cave, weapon raised. His visor glowed red as it scanned the shadows. Behind him, more followed. Serenya's grip on her sword tightened. She could feel Kyle behind her, waiting for her choice. Fight or hide, sacrifice or survive. Her pride screamed at her to attack, to prove she was still the warrior her betrayers had feared. But her heart, a heart she thought was made only for war, whispered something new. She could not let the human die for her. Then it happened. A soldier spotted them. His voice echoed through the cave. "Target located." Blaster fire lit the darkness. Sparks exploded against the stone walls. Kale dove forward, pulling Serenya behind a rock. Shots burned the air where they had stood. Kale returned fire, his blaster cracking loudly. One soldier fell, but more stormed in, their heavy boots shaking the ground. Serenya struggled to rise. Her pride pushed her forward, but her body betrayed her. She stumbled. Kale caught her, pulling her back to safety. "Stay down!" he shouted. "No!" Her voice broke with fury. "I will not hide while you fight for me." Summoning her last strength, Serenya raised her sword. Energy burst from the blade, blinding light filling the cave. She swung once and the ground trembled. A wave of force threw two soldiers against the wall, their armor sparking. Kale's eyes widened. He had never seen such power, but the attack drained her. Her knees buckled and she nearly collapsed. Kale caught her again, holding her upright. "You'll kill yourself," he cried. Her chest heaved with exhaustion. "Better I die fighting than live in shame." Kale looked at her fiercely. "No, better you live, better we both live." His words struck deep. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Her people valued victory, not survival. But Kale, this fragile human, valued her life more than her pride. Another soldier charged, blade in hand. Kale fired, but missed. The soldier lunged forward. In that moment, Serenya made her choice. She threw herself in front of Kale, her sword flashing. The alien blade clashed with the enemy's weapon, sparks flying. Pain shot through her body, but she held firm. With a fierce cry, she struck, cutting the soldier down. Her strength gave out, and she collapsed to her knees. Kale dropped beside her, firing at the remaining soldiers. One by one, they fell under his desperate shots until the cave fell silent once more. Kale's chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. He lowered his blaster, sweat dripping down his face. He turned to Serenya, who lay trembling, her sword still glowing faintly. "You saved me," he said softly. Her eyes met his. "You saved me first." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Two lives, two worlds, now bound by survival. Serenya felt something shift inside her. She was no longer fighting just for honor. She was fighting for him, for the human who refused to leave her behind. But their brief peace shattered with a sound from deeper in the forest. More engines, more soldiers. The enemy was not finished. Kyle helped Serenya to her feet. She leaned on him heavily, her pride burning, but she did not resist. Together, they stumbled out of the cave and into the shadows of the trees. As they moved, Serenya whispered, "They betrayed me, my people, my commander. They will not stop until I am gone." Kyle glanced at her, his voice steady. "Then let them come. They'll have to go through me first." Her heart tightened. She had been abandoned by her own kind. Yet here was a human, someone she once thought weak, who stood with her against an entire army. For the first time, the alien warrior girl felt something more than duty, more than anger. She felt hope. The screen fades to black. The forest was restless. The wind carried the sound of engines and the crackle of radios. Soldiers spread like shadows between the trees, moving with deadly precision. They were no longer simple hunters, they were executioners. At the heart of the forest, Serenya and Kale pushed forward, each step heavy. Serenya's strength had not fully returned, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. Kale stayed close, his hand gripping his blaster, his eyes sharp. She could feel it in her bones. The betrayers had arrived, the very people she once trusted. The comrades who had fought beside her in countless battles were now hunting her like prey. Kale broke the silence. "They're tightening the net. They know exactly where we are." Serenya nodded grimly. "Yes, they want me alive, for a moment, to watch me fall, to prove their power." Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from the wound in her heart. Kale glanced at her. "Then we don't give them what they want." Before she could answer, a booming voice echoed through the forest, amplified, cold, merciless. "Serenya of the fallen clan, you survived when you should have died. You have no honor left." "Sir," End her now, and we may grant you a quick end. Her blood boiled. She recognized that voice. Commander Drelk, the very man she had trusted with her life, the one who had abandoned her in the fire of battle. Kale saw her fists tighten. That's him, isn't it? She whispered, her voice like steel. Yes, my commander, my betrayer. The trees shook as a massive dropship landed nearby. Dozens of armored soldiers poured out, their weapons glowing in the dim light. The ground trembled under their boots. Kale grabbed Serenya's arm. We need to run. But Serenya pulled free, her eyes blazing. No, I will not run from them again. Kale stared at her. She was weak, wounded, yet her spirit was unbreakable. He knew he could not stop her. He also knew if she faced them alone, she would die. So he made his choice. He stood beside her, raising his blaster. The soldiers spread, their leader stepping forward. Commander Drelk was taller than the rest, his black armor polished like obsidian, his helmet marked with the crest of power. His weapon hummed with energy as he pointed it toward her. You should have stayed dead, Drelk growled. Now you will die a traitor. Serenya lifted her glowing sword. Its hum grew louder, filling the air with a storm of energy. Her voice rang out, strong despite her pain. No, I was betrayed, and I will not fall to cowards who abandon their own. The forest exploded with battle. Blaster fire cut through the air. Kale ducked behind a tree, firing back with sharp aim. He was only one man against many, but every shot was taken with precision. A soldier fell, then another. Serenya clashed with the front line, her sword cutting through armor like paper. Sparks lit the trees as steel met energy. She moved with fury, each strike a scream of betrayal and rage. But she was not the same as before. Her wounds slowed her, her strength faltered. One soldier struck her side and she staggered. Another raised his weapon to finish her, only for Kyle's shot to pierce his helmet, dropping him to the ground. Our eyes met for a brief moment. He had saved her again. The battle raged. Soldiers pressed closer, overwhelming them with numbers. Kale's blaster overheated, forcing him to reload. Serenya fought like a storm, but her body was failing. Then, in the chaos, a stun net shot through the air. Kale turned too late. It wrapped around him, electricity surging through his body. He cried out, collapsing to the ground. Kale! Serenya screamed. She rushed forward, but a dozen soldiers blocked her path. Commander Drelk stepped between them, his blade gleaming. You care for this human? His voice dripped with mockery. A fragile creature who will die screaming? Serenya's chest heaved with rage. Touch him, and I will tear you apart. Drelk laughed coldly. Then come and try. But first, watch him suffer. Two soldiers dragged Kale to his knees, their weapons pressed to his back. His face was pale, his body shaking from the stun. But his eyes met hers, steady, unbroken. Don't give up, he whispered. Her hands trembled on her sword. For the first time, she faced a choice that cut deeper than any wound. She could rush forward, fight, and risk Kale's death. Or she could surrender, give herself up, and hope to protect him. The weight of her choice pressed down like a mountain. She had been betrayed once. Could she risk betraying him, the only one who had stood by her side? The forest fell silent as Commander Drelk raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Kyle's head. Choose, Serenya, he said, his voice cold and sharp. Your life or his? The screen fades to black. The forest was silent. Soldiers stood in a circle, their weapons glowing, their helmets reflecting the pale light of the moon. In the center, Kyle knelt on the ground, bound by the stun net, his breath heavy, but his eyes defiant. Serenya stood a few steps away, her sword trembling in her hands. Her heartpiece, Kashishelm, pounded like thunder. She faced her old commander, Drelk, the man who had betrayed her, the man who had abandoned her to die. Choose, Drelk said coldly. Drop your sword, surrender, and I may let the human live, or fight, and watch him die. The words cut deep. Serenya's pride screamed to fight, but her heart burned with fear for Kyle. She had never cared for anyone before. Now, his life meant more to her than her honor. Kyle's voice broke the silence. Don't surrender, Serenya. Don't give them what they want. Her eyes widened. If I fight, they'll kill you. Kyle gave a small, pained smile. Then fight harder. The words struck like fire. The human, fragile and mortal, was not afraid. He believed in her. He believed she could win, even against impossible odds. Serenya lifted her sword. Its energy roared to life, filling the air with light. Her voice rang out strong and fierce. "I will never bow to traitors!" With a cry, she leapt forward. The battle exploded. Soldiers rushed at her, their weapons flashing. Serenya's blade moved like lightning, cutting through armor, sparks flying. She spun, struck, and struck again, her fury unstoppable. Kael struggled against his bonds, pulling with all his strength. The net burned his skin, but he refused to stay down. He had promised not to let her fight alone. Commander Drelk stepped forward, his black blade clashing against hers. The ground shook with each strike. He was stronger, heavier, but she was faster, her rage giving her strength. "You are nothing without me," Drelk growled. "You are weak, broken." Serenya's eyes blazed. "No, I was broken when I followed you. Now I fight for myself. And for him." Their swords clashed again, sparks exploding between them. The sound rang through the forest like thunder. Meanwhile, Kael finally tore free from the stun net. His arms shook, his body weak, but his will unbroken. He grabbed a fallen blaster and fired, dropping a soldier who was about to strike Serenya from behind. Her eyes flicked toward him, and for a moment, a spark of hope lit her heart. She was not alone. The soldiers grew desperate, surrounding them both. Blaster fire filled the air. Kael moved behind trees, firing shot after shot, while Serenya carved a path through the armored foes. But then, Drelk struck a heavy blow. His blade slashed across Serenya's side, sending her crashing to the ground. Her sword slipped from her grasp, its glow dimming. She gasped, pain flooding her body. Drelk raised his weapon, ready to end her life. Kael shouted, "No!" He sprinted forward, firing at Drelk. The commander swatted the shots aside, then backhanded Kael with brutal force. The human flew across the ground, blood spilling from his lip. Serenya's vision blurred. She could barely breathe. Yet as she watched Kael fall, something inside her snapped. She remembered his words, "Fight harder." With a roar, she grabbed her sword once more. Its energy flared brighter than ever before, responding to her will. She rose to her feet, fire in her eyes. Drelk sneered. "You can barely stand." She raised her blade high. "I don't need to stand, I only need to fight." She lunged, her sword clashing against his in a storm of sparks. They fought with all their fury, each strike shaking the ground, each clash echoing through the forest. Kael, weak but determined, lifted his blaster once more. He aimed carefully, waiting for his moment. Drelk forced Serenya to her knees, pressing his blade against hers. "This is the end." But Serenya smiled. "No, this is the beginning." At that moment, Kael fired. The shot struck Drelk's shoulder, breaking his focus. Serenya seized the chance. With one final cry, she drove her glowing sword through his armor. Light exploded. Drelk staggered, his helmet cracking, his voice choking in disbelief. "You were mine," he gasped. "No," Serenya said, her voice cold and strong. "I was never yours. With one fin, I'll strike," she cut him down. The forest fell silent. The remaining soldiers, seeing their commander fall, retreated into the night. Engines roared as their dropship lifted off, vanishing into the stars. Serenya collapsed, her strength gone. Kael rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. Her eyes fluttered open, her voice weak. We did it." Kael held her close, his face pale with exhaustion but filled with relief. "We did it. Together." For the first time, Serenya allowed herself to rest in someone else's arms. She had fought for honor all her life. Tonight she had fought for something greater. The screen fades to black. The forest was quiet again. Smoke drifted through the broken trees, carrying the smell of burned metal and blood. The battle was over. Commander Drelk lay dead, his black armor shattered. His soldiers fled into the night sky. But victory had come at a price. Serenya collapsed against Kael's chest, her armor cracked, her skin pale from blood loss. Her golden eyes flickered weakly, fighting to stay open. She had survived betrayal, war, and the final battle, but her body was nearly at its limit. Kael held her tightly, his heart racing. "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave now." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Worried for me, human?" His voice cracked. "More than you'll ever know." He pulled her to a safe spot under the trees, away from the blood-soaked ground. He did his best to clean her wounds again, using what little he had left. His hands shook as he worked, but he didn't stop. Serenya watched him. Even broken and tired, this human refused to give up. He had no army, no strength like hers, but he had something she had never known: heart. "You could have left me," she whispered. "From the beginning. You could have walked away. Kale looked into her eyes. I told you before, I don't always do the wise thing. For the first time, Serenia laughed softly. It hurt, but it felt real. Silence fell between them, heavy but warm. The stars above shone too, through the trees, their cold light reflecting on her golden eyes. She realized something she had never admitted before. Her life, once built on loyalty to her people, had been destroyed by betrayal. Yet in the ruins, she had found something new. Someone new. Kale noticed her staring. What is it? Her voice was soft. I was taught that humans were weak, that your kind had no place in war, no place among warriors. But you proved them wrong. You fought when you should have run. You stood when others would have fallen. And you saved me. Kale's chest tightened. Serenia. She reached for his hand, her fingers trembling. You are more than they ever said, more than I ever believed, and now, my heart is yours. Kale froze. The alien warrior girl who once looked at him with suspicion now looked at him with something far deeper. Love. He squeezed her hand gently. Then I'll never let you go. For a moment, there was peace. Their scars, their pain, their battles faded into the quiet night. They had both lost everything, yet in each other, they had found hope. But hope was fragile. From the wreckage of Drelk's armor, a small beacon pulsed red. A faint signal climbed into the sky, reaching beyond the forest, beyond the planet, into the stars. Serenia noticed it first. Her smile faded. They will come. Kyle followed her gaze, his jaw tightening. More of them? She nodded. Yes. Drelk was only one commander. His masters will want revenge. They will not stop. Kyle looked at her, then back at the beacon. He should have felt fear. Instead, he felt resolve. Then let them come, he said. We'll face them together. Serenia's heart stirred. No human had ever spoken like that. No warrior of her people had ever fought with such courage. She believed him, not because of his strength, but because of the fire in his spirit. She leaned against him, her golden eyes close, syncopated together. The night stretched on. In the distance, the faint glow of engines lit the sky. New enemies were coming, but for the first time, Serenia was not afraid. Kale would fight, she would fight, and together, they would not fall. Epilogue. A New Dawn. When the sun rose, its light spilled across the forest, shining on two figures sitting side by side. Serenia's strength had begun to return. Her wounds were not healed, but her spirit was strong. Her sword rested across her knees, glowing faintly in the morning light. Kyle sat beside her, his blaster at his side. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes shone with quiet determination. They looked at the horizon. Somewhere out there, armies were gathering, hunting them. The war was not over. But for now, they had each other. Serenia whispered, I once lived for honor. Then I lived for revenge. But now, I live for you. Kale smiled, his voice steady. And I'll fight for you, no matter what comes. Their hands touched, fingers locking together. Above them, the sky roared as distant ships entered orbit. The signal had been received. The next battle was already on its way. But Serenia and Kale were ready. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as something greater. Love, forged in war. A love beyond worlds. The screen fades to black. Final hook. The story ends with hope and love, but the war is far from over. New enemies are coming, and their bond will be tested like never before.